Hi everyone. Hi, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about surds, and our next video series will be on indices. So I'm going to start with surds first, then after that I'm going to talk about indices. So if you've not watched my previous video, I'll advise you to go back and review the videos. Just go to the playlist. In the playlist, you will see different topics, and feel free to select the topic you just want to review. All right, so we're going to talk about surds today. So in surds, in mathematics, we usually refer to surds as values that has a square root sign that cannot be further simplified into whole numbers or integers. So basically, we're talking about that these are numbers that you can represent as fractions. So basically, we can talk about them as irrational numbers. So for instance, you have square root of 2, square root of 3, square root of 5, and the rest of it. So just to help those that are jotting as well, so I can just write down the definition here, that surds are the values, okay? So surds are the values in square roots, okay? So square root being this sign, okay, that's the square root sign. So that in square root, that the key word you need to keep in mind is that they cannot, all right? So that means they cannot, all right, be represented or be further simplified. So they cannot be further simplified. So these are numbers that cannot be further simplified into whole numbers. So when we talk about whole numbers, we're talking about things like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20. These are whole numbers, or integers in some cases, all right? So you can't further break them down into integers or even represent them as fraction. Is that okay? So you cannot even represent them as fraction. Okay, so basically, these are values in the square roots, okay, that cannot be further simplified. So, so we can now say that surds are irrational numbers. So we can say surds are irrational numbers. So these are numbers that you cannot break down, all right? So for example, if we say square root of 9, all right? Now, when you say square root of 9, we can expect the answer to be 3, or you can say plus or minus 3, all right? We'll talk about that later. But when you say square root of 9, you can still further simplify that. Remember the key word we talked about, that it cannot be further simplified. But if you check like something like square root of 2, all right, square root of 2 cannot be further simplified again. So that means square root of 9 is not a surd, but square root of 2 is a surd. And because I'm talking about irrational numbers, all right, for some of you, you've not heard of irrational numbers. For some of you, you've heard it, but you just need a reminder. So what I decided to do as well is that I'm going to just do a quick reminder of what irrational numbers are and rational numbers. So basically, we have two types. We have what we call the rational numbers. So these are numbers that you can express in fractions. So for instance, so rational numbers. So rational numbers are numbers that can be expressed in fractions. So basically, we can express them in the form of P over Q. So where P and Q are integers. Is that okay? So these are what we call rational numbers. So for instance, we have things like 2 over 3. This is a rational number. We have 3. 3 is also a rational number because we can express 3 as 3 divided by 1. Is that okay? Etc. So these are rational numbers. All right. Now, but what I talked about in the previous whiteboard, what I said was irrational numbers. So when we talk about irrational numbers, now this is a bit different. So these are real numbers, but you cannot express them as ratio of integers. So basically, you can't express them as fractions like P over Q. So in this case, it's a real number, but cannot be expressed as a ratio of what? Integers. So it's a real number that cannot be expressed, okay? That cannot be expressed as a ratio of integers. So these are numbers or real numbers that cannot be expressed. So for instance, if we say square root of 5, all right, there's no other way you can express this. You can express this in the way of ratio of real numbers. So that is why Surds fall, for instance, under these, because they are classical irrational numbers. All right, so going back now, so that makes more sense to you. All right, so that Surds are irrational numbers. So that means these are numbers, values that have a square root sign that you cannot further simplify into whole numbers. All right. Okay, so with that, now one thing you need to know, in this video series, I'm going to talk about 3 things, all right? The first thing I'm going to talk about the types of surds, all right? The reason I'm going to start with the types of surds is because some of us don't, this is our first time of interacting with surds, all right? So that I'll try to bring it up, all right, to the baseline. Then after that, I'm going to introduce you to the 7 laws, okay? The 7 laws of surds. So we're going to talk about the 7 laws of surds. And finally, we'll now come and solve some examples, or we'll see how we can simplify, all right? You can see how we're going to simplify surds. So those are the 3 things we're going to talk about. So the first thing I'm going to talk about will be the types of surds. I'll talk about the different types. So when we start solving questions, it will make more sense to you. So you can know which are surds and which ones are not surds. Then after that, we're going to talk about the 7 laws of surds. I'll talk about how do you add surds, how do you multiply, how do you divide, what is the concept of conjugates. I'll talk about different laws of that. Then after that, I'll now finalize it now. Applying these laws now, we're going to simplify the surds, all right? So the next video now, I'm going to go straight into the types of surds. So like I said, if you've not liked or you've not subscribed, it's better to do that so that when I upload videos, you'll be aware when I upload videos for this. So I'm going to see you in the next video, and we're going to discuss the types of surds. All right. So I'll see you soon.